Welcome to Business as a Magical Practice, where your business is the vehicle for your self-integration and soul evolution. My name is Sam Garcia, and I'm the founder of Dirty Alchemy Digital Marketing. And I'll be guiding you through how you can use your business as a spiritual practice and what magical businesses are doing to hit their goals and change the world. Together, we'll be relating the mystical to the world of business so that our work can unite spirit and matter, shadow and light, conscious and unconscious. Let's dive in.
Hi, everyone. So this is a bit of a weird episode. It's kind of a PSA, a public service announcement, or like a mini episode, just because I had the strong urge to record it where me and my husband are going through land buying process. And essentially this is for you if you want to buy a home or a piece of land in the next 2 years, because there's stuff that you actually want to start doing now. You really want to start planning the process now and researching the process now. And our whole process would have been significantly easier if someone had told us this. So I'm just like, this is my little my gift to you if you're looking to buy a home sometime in the next 2 years. And also a little bit of our story of what's happening. And we're in the thick of it right now. So this is not like an after. This is like from the thick of everything that's happening. And just our own personal experience of buying property in the most expensive real estate market in the United States as two self-employed people. So we're a married couple and we're both self-employed buying a piece of land. And obviously, this is not financial advice. I am not a realtor. I am not a financial advisor. So this is just behind the scenes of stuff that's happening. So first of all, it is so different buying property if you are self-employed. If you are employed, you're pretty much just giving them your W-2 and a down payment. And it's just like very little paperwork. You're just like, here's my bank statements, here's my W-2, and done. If you're self-employed, there are some things you want to keep in mind. The first of all, you need to give them, like loan officers, 2 to 3 years, your last 2 to 3 years of tax returns and showing your net income. So often when you are doing taxes as a business owner, you are writing off all possible expenses, right? That's generally wise, totally legal. Like, write off as much as you can. Of course, you don't want to be paying taxes on things you don't have to pay taxes on. If you're buying expensive property in the next 2 years, you may want to write off less expenses. Obviously, talk to your accountant about this. Hire an accountant for this. But for example, like, we write off a portion of our house rent because I actually have a home office, like a dedicated room. So I'm allowed to write off a part of our rent. I write off training courses. I write off mastermind groups I'm in. I write off travel that involves business. And you probably do too. And you might actually consider not writing those things off for the 2 years leading up to you wanting to buy a house, and instead paying taxes on that, so that you show a higher net profit on your tax returns. Because when you are buying a house and the size of the house that you can get, I mean, obviously don't buy more of a house than you can afford, obviously. But if you expect your business to grow rapidly in the next 2 years, then you might actually be able to afford a much larger house, more expensive property 2 years from now than now. But they're going to be looking back 2 years. So it's an averaging, and often some loan officers will average the last 2 or 3 years. So you can't just be like, oh, right now, here's my profit and loss statement of what's happening right now. No, you have to like go back in time. So that's one factor. Your tax returns, writing off less qualified expenses, because I mean, often mentors, often courses we buy, certain things aren't actually in online business, they're not required for your business. Like they're not really cost of goods sold, right? We're writing them off because they're a business expense, but they're often an optional business expense. They're like, yes, of course I want to buy this training or join this mastermind, when really we can continue on with our business without those things. So another thing you want to start working on now is your credit, because your credit score, and if you're married or if you're in a long-term relationship right now and you're thinking of getting married in the next couple of years, like, you and your partner need to start both working on your credit, because both of your credit scores will matter. It directly impacts your interest rate, which directly impacts what your mortgage payment is going to be. So start working on your credit. If you have any outstanding debts, pay them, get on a payment plan for them. If you aren't paying off, if you have credit cards and you're not paying off the entire balance every month, start doing that. If you don't have any credit, you might want to consider opening a credit card for you or your business and just putting minimal expenses on there, just so you can start building up proof that you are wise with credit. Also, in regards to like credit and debt, you need to know what debts you actually have, because the loan offers are going to look at your debt to income ratio, which is essentially like all of your revenue coming in, or all of your profit that's coming in that you're paying yourself every month. They're going to subtract your current debt from it, your monthly debt payments, and that will impact how big of a mortgage they'll see as fit. So that might impact your decision over the next 2 years if you want to finance a car or not. Because if you finance a car, that's technically a debt that you're going to have to pay a monthly payment on, and will show up in your debt to income ratio, or other things that you can finance. So that's just something to keep in mind. Part of the decision making over the next 2 years. Also, we waited right until the very last minute. Like, we knew we were looking to buy, and we waited until we found the exact property we wanted before we started talking to loan officers and before we started talking to realtors. And I wish if I'm going back to tell myself 2 years from now, and what I'm telling you is, start talking to loan officers and realtors now. Start now, start having those conversations now, because you'll get into there's so many, the person to person difference between one loan officer to another, one realtor to another, one bank to another is so vast. It is insane. Like, there are some who are so anti self-employed person and like, oh, we don't want to deal with you. And some people who are like, oh yeah, no problem. We've worked with a lot of self-employed people. So start looking around and asking around now. Start talking to your bank about it. Start looking at local loan options. Like, one of the things that we heard, because one of my uncles has been self-employed for most of his career, and he has multiple properties, and I talked with him during this whole process, and he recommended, like, one of our first loans we got was from a local credit union, because they're actually more likely to give loans to self-employed people. So that's something you want to look into. But actually just starting to practice talking about it. And like, if we're talking about manifestation techniques too, like, you starting to educate yourself and starting to believe that it's possible that you can buy a house now could actually quicken the process, which is really fun and exciting. So it doesn't have to be this big, scary process. And if you think of it of like, oh, I have 2 years to figure all of this out, and we're just going to have fun and like be dreaming and like talking to people along the way, it can actually be a really fun process. Another thing to think about is that down payments vary a ton. So you see down payments as low as 5% of the total house cost. But one thing to consider is that if you put 20% of the house cost down as a down payment, you don't have to pay what's called a PMI. I'm not going to remember what that stands for. It's something P stands for something, mortgage insurance. It's some sort of mortgage insurance. They actually make you pay an additional fee every single month in addition to your normal mortgage if you're paying less than 20% down. So that's something to keep in mind. And so that's all. When we were looking for a house, we're actually in the process of buying a piece of land, and fingers crossed, we're like supposed to go into escrow on Monday. And I know that this episode is going to come out weeks after I'm actually recording this, but so like, maybe there'll be more updates on Instagram. We'll see. But we are buying land, which is definitely a different process. So if you're someone who wants to buy land to build a house on, or if you're someone who wants to be living off grid, if you're someone who wants to build your own house, I'll just add a little bit of our story in case this is relevant for anyone, because I know that there are other weirdos and preppers and survivalists and permaculture people in this audience. So I figured I'll just share a little bit of what we're doing. And so we're looking to buy a 7-acre property here on Maui. And in general, if you're just talking to a normal lender, they want 30% down. So 30% of the land price down. And then it is often a much higher interest rate than if you are buying a house with a mortgage. It's just a completely different loan process. And so that is something to keep into account, because it's just, you're going to have to put down more money most of the time. So in our situation, like we called so many people, we talked to so many people around just looking at all of our options, because both me and my husband have so many scenarios of finding like this like 1 in a million opportunity that actually like had no idea. Like most people tell you this and that will happen in one scenario, and we find this like weird little thing, which is like, that's why we do magic, people. But so my husband's a farmer and he does that full time. And so we're working on a USDA loan, which is specifically a farm ownership loan, which exists. And so if anyone is interested in farming, they do farm ownership loans for beginner farmers. So even if you don't have much experience, like you could start taking a training at your community college, and like that could qualify you for this loan. Like just start, like go into your local USDA office, like the person at our USDA office who talks about loans, it was like an amazing human being. And I don't know if we're just lucky with our USDA office or if they're all this way, but they're so helpful, totally like walked us through the entire loan application process. And it was like the interest rates for beginner farmer or like minority farmer loans. And if you're a woman, you're a minority farmer, or if you're pretty much a non-white man or a white or non-white woman, or anything in between. Just if you're not a white man, there we go. You can get this beginner farmer or minority farmer loan. And right now, at least, it's a 1.5% interest rate, which is nuts. It is like $0. It's essentially $0 compared to most interest rates right now, especially for land. Like we're buying for land. And yes, you're allowed to build a house on it. Yes, you're allowed to, like the loan doesn't apply for building a house, but it's not like you can't build a house on the farmland that you're buying. The one thing to think about for this is when your personal income actually doesn't matter, like because of the type of loan we're looking at, which is farming specific, my business's income doesn't actually matter, which is just nuts. Like we were not expecting this. My husband's farm income and his farm history 100% matters. They're pretty much just looking at that. And then like, obviously the down payment matters, but like their down payments are just like, are as low as 5%, like a normal mortgage, which is again, unheard of when it comes to land loans or construction loans. Because another route you can do if you are looking to buy a piece of land is you can get a construction loan, but those down payments are often very, very high. Also, your farm plan matters a lot. So like they're going to ask your history, or at least your training you have for farming, and what your farm business plan is, because they're going to base how much of a loan they give you off of your farm business plan. So if you're someone like I'm not sure about this, but I'm wondering, like if you're into herbalism, if you're into homesteading, if you want to have a business like that and buy land that will be connected to that business, it could apply to you. So I just really wanted to mention it in case this is, I have friends who like eventually want to homestead or like build a tiny home and just live off grid. This loan and loans like this could apply to that. So I just wanted to mention that. And I do want to do an actual episode on buying a home when you're self-employed with someone who is technically an expert in the space later, but I just want to do this mini episode because it felt really important. I was thinking about it, and if you start doing this stuff now, if you want to buy a home or a piece of land in the next 2 years, it's going to make your life's so much less stressful and overwhelming when your perfect opportunity comes about. So love you guys. I'll see you next week. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review if you haven't subscribed yet. If you haven't left a rating or review, we deeply would appreciate it. It does impact the podcast algorithm and if more people can find the podcast. So it takes less than 36 seconds to rate and review. So we would love it if you do that now. Okay, have a great week, you guys. I'll see you next week.